Thank you, everybody. It's a big room. Thank you very much.
Okay. How's Virginia Beach doing today? Great. Okay, hey, we have a busy hour upcoming here. We are going to go through a whole range of questions about our military, about our veterans, about our national security, a whole range of stuff today. So this will be a really good event, and we do deeply appreciate everybody coming out today. This is a really important period of time for our country. Thank you. Okay, I know that there's a whole bunch of groups here. One I do want to recognize are the military spouses that are here today. If you could just sound off. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for your service, your sacrifice, and all that you do. Thank you so much. Okay, so the format here, just briefly, I'm going to just give just kind of an opening on on what's going on around the world today, and then get right into a series of questions, and we'll talk again about kind of the situation in the world and what is happening around the world, and then how that affects our national security, and certainly how that affects our military and our military readiness, etc. I think everybody knows that the world is in one of the most complex states that it has ever been in. When we think about what's going on in China and the South China Sea, we've got North Korea, and North Korea moving towards a nuclear program. We have Russia pushing on the frontier of East Europe. We have the Middle East, North Africa, Central Asia. Is just an utter disaster. Actually, I can't describe it any other way than it's just a complete mess. And we are facing probably one of the most complex times that our nation has ever faced. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to talk first about our veterans. And I want to jump right in before we get into some of the situation with ISIS and China and all these other things. I want to talk and ask the next president of the United States here, Donald Trump, who is just exactly. So as president, as the next president, what can you do to reform the Veterans Administration and the health care for our vets? How can we take better care of our vets?
Well, General, thank you very much for being here, Mike. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate all of those generals and admirals that today endorsed me. We have
almost 90, yep.
These are the fighters.
It's unbelievable.
Almost 90. And these are our fighters. These are our fighting generals. And there are actually a lot more to come, but I really appreciate everything from you and all of them. We have great respect for those people. These are great people. So if you look at the veteran situation, I have been so involved over the last year and a half and before that in seeing what's going on with the VA, and it is a disaster. And I've become so friendly and helped the veterans in so many different ways, but it's such a big problem, and we have no clue. Hillary Clinton said everything's working just fine. She doesn't know that people are standing online for 7 days to see a doctor and dying, Mike. They're dying online. And we came out with a plan, a 10-point plan, and it's on the website, and you'll see it if you want. I'm sure most of you have already seen it, but it's been really praised by the veterans and the veterans groups. And the fact is the VA is the Veterans Administration and waiting and all of the problems, and you do have some good doctors in there, but people can't get to see the doctors because the administration, the bureaucratic workings of the Veterans Administration are a total disaster. And what I've done and what I've looked at, and you know all about the rate of suicide and all of the problems, and numbers that honestly are not even believable when you hear 22 people a day. 22 people a day. These are numbers that you wouldn't even think are believable, and a lot of it is because of the fact that they can't get better. They have no service whatsoever, and it's been really badly handled. One of the things that I've done is we allow, when that wait is so long and so horrible, and sometimes, by the way, a simple procedure or a simple prescription, just a very simple thing can make a person's life wonderful health-wise, and they can't see the doctor. They can't get to see the doctor. And we have a plan where if you have a wait, you're going to leave, you're going to go across the street or down the road or a few miles away, You're going to see a doctor, a really good doctor. You're going to get taken care of 100%, or you're going to go to a local hospital, whether it's public or private. You're going to get taken care of, and your government is going to pay your bill, and you're going to be all set. It's going to be very good, very simple.
It's a promise. That's great.
Should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah. And along that line specifically, because you've talked about this with female veterans, and I think this is just as very, very
because it was, obviously a while ago there were far fewer, and they haven't increased that capacity, and now you have tremendous numbers of female vets, and we are going to do procedures that they've never done, and we are going to help the female veteran. They have not been helped. They've really been left behind, even more so than our male veterans. They've been left behind, and it's just not going to happen. We're going to straighten it out. We're going to give them also the right. If things are not being done right, they're going to have the right to go to a local doctor or physician or a local hospital. And again, whether it's public or private, whichever one is most convenient and whichever one is better, frankly. And they're going to get themselves taken care of, whether it's male or female. And that's so important. And the other issue that's so important is mental health, because the mental health problem is such a massive problem in the VA, and that's something we're going to devote a tremendous amount of time to. And it's not just amount of money. The money they're spending is tremendously. It's a huge amount of money that they're currently spending. But they have people that are incompetent in the VA, tremendous, and they have people that are stealing. You've seen that. If you look at Phoenix and what's gone on in Phoenix, where they can't even fire the people, they found people that are stealing and found people that are very dishonest. They can't even get rid of them. All of that's going to change. The VA, you're going to be so proud of what you have. I mean, we're going to take it, and you're going to be so proud of what you have, believe me.
Yeah, and just to highlight, one of the things that you have talked about is accountability of the people that are serving our veterans in the Veterans Administration and the Veterans Administration system, the whole system. And I think for all of us, accountability is probably something, not just in the Veterans Administration, but in government as a whole. Okay, so we're going to switch topics a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of the refugee policies now that we see bubbling underneath us here, coming into this country, some of the challenges that we face. What do you think of Hillary Clinton's current refugee policies, and how do they differ from your own?
Look, she's a disaster in so many different ways, folks. Disaster. I don't really even think she believes it herself. She was brought so far left. She was brought so far left by Bernie and the group, and I think we're going to get a lot of the Bernie people because of trade, if you want to know the truth. A lot of the Bernie people are coming with us, because the one thing he was right about is the fact that our country is being ripped off like never before on these trade deals that are disasters. NAFTA has been a disaster for the United States. It's destroyed our country, and that's one thing he got right, and a lot of people liked him because of trade more so than anything else. But when it comes to immigration, first of all, she thinks that everything is more or less fine. She wants to allow 650% increase over and above what Obama is allowing to come in from Syria and the Middle East, 650%. And he's already allowing thousands and thousands of people in. And we don't know where they're coming from. You people know, because we're military people. We don't know where they're coming from. You see the damage that one person can do. You just have to look anywhere. You see the damage that, whether it's Orlando or whether it's two people that just got married or they're married and they're, from San Bernardino. You see San Bernardino, they're getting thrown a party, a shower party or a baby party, and then a short while later they go and they kill 14 people in the group. Look, we got problems, folks. We have to figure it out. And if we don't figure it out, we have to be careful and vigilant and strong. And she wants to allow a 550% increase. You know, I was very interesting. I was saying she wants to allow 500% more coming in from that region. And the press said I was wrong. I said, oh, what's the real number? 550. So that time, it was true. They said I was
you were
wrong.
close.
They said the number was,
You lowballed it.
as long as they can prove you wrong, they're happy. No, but 550% increase of people coming from Syria and that part of the world. And we can't do it. I want to build safe havens, and we'll have other people build them, by the way. We'll have other people fund them. We'll lead the charge. But, you know, Barack Obama has doubled during his fairly short period of years. He's doubled our national debt, doubled it. It's going to be close to $20 trillion when he leaves, $20 trillion. So we have to get rid of at least a good portion of that. So we're going to have other people. We're going to have the Gulf states pay for this because we're going to build safe havens. I mean, look, we all have big hearts. We just can't allow these people into our country until we find out what's going on. We can't do it. We can't do it.
Very good. And I think that also, as you have said, that they also impact our healthcare system. They impact all the other costs. So it's very, very important.
By the way, you have illegal immigrants. I hate to say this in this room because you have a lot of vets in the room, but you have illegal immigrants that she wants and he wants treated better than veterans. You have these people are treated better than people that are in this room. You know it.
Yeah.
They are treated better than veterans. And let me tell you, folks, they got their priorities mixed up. That's going to change so fast, okay? It's going to change.
Yeah.
Good. General, we have a couple of people, by the way, Mayor Rudy Giuliani of New York, who, what a great mayor. Stand up. Stand up, Rudy. Rudy, beautiful. Whoa, I love him. Do we love what he did? He took a city that was a disaster. He took New York City and he made it great. Think of it, made it great again, right? He made it great again. So, Rudy, great to see you. And Eric Trump's wife, Laura, is here, and she's done a fantastic job. Laura's been working very hard, in particular in North Carolina, but helping also with Virginia. We have some people in Virginia, Mike Rubino and the group. They've been amazing, and hopefully we can get everybody registered because we have to win. Virginia is a very important state. We have to win Virginia. Thank you.
Okay, so speaking of disasters, the Iran nuclear deal. And Iran has, I mean, we're talking about putting nukes into the hands of an Ayatollah that says death to America, death to Israel, and they continue to fire ballistic missiles all the time in violation of this deal. But Iran has engaged in growing hostilities, has increasingly shown it continues to have nuclear ambitions. Right. And as president, what are you going to do about Iran?
First of all, if you look at the policies of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, they have created what will be a world power. Not, you know, they're talking about a regional power. This is going to be a world power. They have become rich. They have become powerful. The deal is one of the worst negotiated deals of any kind that I've ever seen. If you look at it, just study it. We give them $150 billion. How about the $400 million in cash that we gave them, flown in? Obviously for hostages. That was the big lie also, just like Obamacare was a big lie. This was a big lie. And think of it, $400 million in cash. And they kept the hostages. Remember, it had nothing to do with the hostages, but the hostages weren't allowed to leave the airport until such time. And then they came. Who ever heard of $400 million in cash? Different denominations, different countries. They want all different money from different countries. Who even has the power to authorize something like this? So what we've done is created a monster. We've created in 3 years, 4 years. If you take a look at Iran from 4 or 5 years ago, they were dying. They had the sanctions, they were being choked to death, and they were absolutely dying. They weren't even going to be much of a threat. They didn't have anything going, and now they're a power. We've made them a power. Overnight, we've made them a power. Number one, they're highly threatening to the state of Israel. They are so bad for Israel. Obama has been so bad for Israel, but they are a great threat, and they're a threat to us. And they're going to have nuclear weapons, and this path, in my opinion, is going to be a quicker path to nuclear weapons. The deal is grossly incompetent. And then I don't know if you saw the other day, we have the little boats going out, and they're making all sorts of horrible gestures. You know, they learned the gestures, I guess. They studied the United States, and they gave those kind of gestures to our sailors and our captain on the boats. And, oh, boy, I'll bet those guys wanted to blow them out of the water. I'll bet you. I'll bet you they wanted to blow them out. And so you see these four little boats circling, going around, you know, taunting. It's like they've been emboldened. Here we are, we made a deal that's such a great deal for them, and they now feel power. They feel power. Remember the sailors, the 10 sailors who were a little bit off? They were in the water. So instead of saying, hey, you're on our water, please, you know, go over there. They humiliated our country. They humiliated those 10 people. And the only reason we got them back, of course, you would have gotten them back very fast if I was president, that I can tell you. But the only reason we got them back was the payment the following day was due. A lot of the money the following day was due. And stupid they're not. And they wanted to get that. But just think of what's gone on. Here we are, we made this deal, we made them a power. And we also happen to have given them Iraq, because Iraq, you know, I always say Iraq and Iran were very similar militarily, and they'd fight, and then they'd rest. They'd fight, and then Saddam Hussein would do the gas, and somebody else would do something else, and they'd rest. We knocked out the one. And a lot of people don't realize that Iraq has some of the greatest oil reserves anywhere in the world. And so Iran is going to get whatever ISIS doesn't already have, and probably take that too, by the way. What we've done to create a major power through really stupid leaders, stupidity, is just shocking. It's one of the dumbest deals I've ever seen. John Kerry's a terrible negotiator, but somebody... But don't forget, this was a deal that crooked Hillary Clinton wanted. She wanted this deal. This was a very important deal. And she wanted that deal. And most people don't even get it. You know, normally you understand a deal and you say, yeah, I understand. We get this. We get nothing. We get nothing. This was a deal at the highest level of incompetence. The deal with Iran was at the highest level of incompetence. So we'll solve that problem if I get the chance, believe me. And if I get the chance, you'll be very happy. You'll be very happy.
That's good. I mean, the leads. And just to remind people, just to remind everybody, Iran is still designated by the United States State Department as the leading state sponsor of terrorism, and we've put them on a path to a nuclear weapon. So pretty amazing what we've done. Staying in the same region, because this is something that all of us that have served in the armed forces over the last 15 years have been a part of, and that is fighting al-Qaeda in Iraq, now fighting ISIS. And ISIS continues to expand their operations. They have this caliphate that they've established in Syria and parts of Iraq, and they have launched attacks throughout the West. I think the latest count was somewhere between 22 and 25 countries that they have launched attacks in the last, probably 2 to 3 months. And that has resulted in somewhere between 7,000 to 10,000 casualties around the world. Just a stunning display of capability by ISIS. What is your response to ISIS? What do you believe we should be doing?
Well, first of all, it wouldn't have started if we had proper leadership, because what happened, we shouldn't have been in Iraq, but we shouldn't have gotten out of Iraq the way we got out, where literally they announced we're going to leave by a certain date. I mean, the enemy couldn't even believe it. Actually, a lot of people thought it was a little bit of a deception, because they couldn't believe anybody would say it. It turned out to be true. And we should have left a small force, relatively small force. As much as I didn't want to be there, we should have left a small force. And really, ISIS just evolved out of all of the turmoil, all of the weakness, all of the stupidity of decisions from Hillary Clinton, from Barack Obama. And ISIS started off in a small area, and now I read the other day they're in 28 different states or nations. 28, think of it. So they're spreading rapidly. A report came out where they were told within the government that they want to try and minimize ISIS and minimize, but the fact is they know it's actually gotten very much out of control. And we have to do something about, we can't allow the chopping off of heads, the drowning of people in steel cages, the viciousness, the violence. So we have to knock out ISIS. We have to knock them out good. And we have to get countries that are affected by ISIS. I mean, a lot of people say, as an example, Russia, you know, Hillary likes to play tough with Russia. Putin looks at her and he laughs, okay? He laughs. Putin looks at Hillary Clinton and he smiles. Boy, would he like to see her. That would be easy. Because just look at her decisions. Look how bad her decisions have been. Virtually every decision she's made has been a loser. But wouldn't it be nice, honestly? Because Russia doesn't like ISIS any better than we do. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got along with Russia and you could knock them out together? Wouldn't that be a good thing? As opposed to, you know, tough talk. She tries to do the tough talk, and then she leaves. You know, she goes, and I watched it yesterday on the airplane, talking tough about Russia. Then she turned around and sat down, you know, which, by the way, wasn't even played on the national media. Wasn't that incredible? It wasn't even played. So we have to get along with people. We have to get along with certain nations, very importantly, because it would be awfully good to have Russia and others with us on major attacks on ISIS.
And to stay on ISIS a little bit, because this is I think this is an important topic, and it's certainly it's one of the national security threats that our country faces today. You have described at times different components of a strategy: military, cyber, financial, and ideological. Can you just expand on those four a little bit?
Well, that's it. And you know, cyber is becoming so big today. It's becoming something that a short number of years ago, wasn't even a word. And now the cyber is so big. And you know, you look at what they're doing with the internet, how they're recruiting people through the internet. And part of it is the psychology, because so many people think they're winning. And, you know, there's a whole big thing. Even today's psychology, where CNN came out with a big poll. Their big poll came out today that Trump is winning. It's good psychology, you know. It's good psychology. I know that for a fact because people that didn't call me yesterday, they're calling me today. So that's the way life works, right? But I think we're doing very well, and I really thank the state of Virginia. So many different places have been so incredible, so I thank you very much. But cyber has been very, very important, and it's becoming more and more important as you look, and a lot of it does have to do with ideology and psychology and lots of other things. You know, we're in a different world today than we were in 20 years ago and 30 years ago. And one of the biggest problems, or one of the reasons that we have to knock them out, is because the weaponry is so powerful today. You know, in the old days, you could have said, well, look, they have rifles, we have rifles, we shoot, and they have uniforms, we have uniforms. This is a whole different war. The weaponry is so powerful, and we have to beat them over there. We're allowing people to come over here. We're allowing, think of it, you're military people, we're allowing people to come over here. And you know, I used to watch the migration, and I'd see people with cell phones. I said, where do they get cell phones? And some of those people had very horrible things on their cell phones, including the ISIS flag. And you say, what are we doing? What are we doing? But we're allowing people to come here, and we don't know, do they turn on us? Are a small percentage of them bad? Because if a small percentage is bad, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. We can't take the risk. Just a small percentage can do such damage. So we can't take the risk. So, General, the bottom line is we have to get very tough and we have to get very smart, or we're not going to have much of a country left, I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, good. So, and staying in the same region of the world, because there's so much going on, and it is just unraveling in front of our eyes. And this really has to do with Syria. And there's been a bunch of different discussion about what to do with Assad. Do you support regime change in Syria?
Look, we have a problem. It's called ISIS. ISIS is fighting Syria. Now we've built up Iran to be a big power. Iran is on the side of Assad, Syria. Russia is on the side of Assad, Syria. So we built these people up. We created this strong power in Iran, which, seriously, folks, you know better than anybody. 4 years ago, they were dying. They were gasping for air. And all we had to do is let them sit for a little longer. In fact, double up your sanctions. You could have really negotiated a deal. How Kerry never left that deal was incredible. Everybody knew it was bad. They're dancing on the streets all over Iran. And literally, they're all celebrating, shouting, "Death to America," "the dumb Americans." What they're saying is incredible. They're saying death to Israel. This is in the middle of the negotiation. If I had a negotiation like that, I'd say, let's check this negotiation. Something's not going very well. We just kept going right through. He never left the table once. If he would have left that table and said, "I'm sorry, you guys," first of all, we should have gotten our hostages back before we started the negotiation, okay? 100%. And we should have said very nicely, with respect, "Sorry, folks, until you do it," and then you leave the room, because they're going to say, "No, we're not giving you your hostage back." Say, "That's okay, don't worry about it." Then you get up, you leave. You get back to your plane, you double up the sanctions. They will call you before you arrive back in Washington or wherever you're going, turn the plane around in midair, your hostages are coming back, okay? Not $400 million in cash that we have to give. Believe me. And it's 100%. It's 100. It's not like 99%. It's 100%. You leave. You say very nicely. I always tell the story of my father, who was a very good negotiator. He taught me so much, and he'd say, "Are you listening to this, Ivanka?" But he'd say, "Son," he thought I was too tough with things, right? He'd say, "Son, take the lumps out." Do you ever hear this story? Take the lumps out. My father, Fred. He'd say, "Just nice and easy, nice and easy. Just relax, take the lumps out." And so I was thinking, see, in the old days, I would have said, "We're not giving you anything." I would have made the room very angry. Now I just say, "Sorry, we owe $20 trillion. We don't have the money. We can't do it. We can't do it." It's easier. We don't. By the way, how do we pay them all this? We keep the $150 billion, but with the hostages, you say we have to have it back. Look, our people want the hostages. Your people don't care. The people probably didn't even know they did, because they played up the hostages, because that's a sign of, the big, brave Iran. So what happens is you say, we have to have the hostages back. They will say no. You leave the room and you double up the sanctions. Within 48 hours, you'll have your hostages back, believe me. But they didn't do that. Kerry never walked. The only time he walked is when he entered a bicycle race. Can you believe this guy? 73 years old. It's real. He fell off his bicycle and he broke his leg and he was out of the negotiation for 3 or 4 weeks. And they probably did better in the negotiation when he wasn't there. But that's the only time that he left. He should have left the negotiation and doubled up the sanctions and get what he wants. That deal is a disaster for us. It's a shorter road to nuclear weapons, and it's an incompetently negotiated deal. So these are the things that we're stuck with, folks, but we will fix them.
Great. And staying in the sort of the wider trans region, because this is another important aspect, because it is a place where members of ISIS now come into Europe, they come into the United States, and this really has to do with Libya. So since 2011, with the removal of Gaddafi, Libya has turned into a safe haven for ISIS. It is also one of the shipment points for some of these refugees that are leaving, coming into Europe and into the United States. What would you do in Libya to defeat ISIS? And just talk a little bit about your commander-in-chief philosophy for how you would deal with this.
Well, it's more of the same. I mean, it's just another place they've taken over. And this was a Hillary Clinton deal. We could have done a minor attack. He was begging. He wanted to make a deal. He wanted to do whatever. And this was just, Gaddafi was so strong on wanting to, because he knew what was going to happen. But she was unyielding. And frankly, it's a total disaster, Libya, right now. They have among the finest quality oils anywhere in the world. Their oil is so valuable, so good. And you know who's got a lot of that oil right now? ISIS. ISIS has it. So we knock them out, and ISIS now is all over Libya, and they've taken over the oil. Remember, I've been saying this for years, folks. Keep the oil. Shouldn't have been there. If you get out, keep the oil. And we should have kept the oil, and we didn't. We didn't keep the oil anywhere. We got out. We spent, I've been saying $2 trillion for years. I know one thing. It's now, I'm hearing $4 trillion. I mean, you look at what we've spent, $4 to $5 trillion in the Middle East, and think of it. What do we have? Less than what we had 15 years ago. It's a disaster. It's a total disaster, on top of which you have the migration, which is destroying Europe. Look at Merkel. I mean, what happened to her the other day in the election is incredible. And I knew that was going to happen. I mean, how could, she's supposed to be popular? Germany is a disaster now. France is a disaster. I have friends, they love, the City of Lights, right? I said to one of my friends the other day, so how is Paris this summer? He always goes to, he said, I don't go there anymore. He said, it's not the same place. It's that's not Paris anymore. We're destroying our planet. We're destroying what's going on. We're destroying ourselves. And you look at the election results from Merkel, they were so bad. And people were saying, I think she'll be okay. I don't think she'll be okay. I was saying 2 weeks ago, I said, why would she be okay? Millions of people go into Germany. The crime is unbelievable. The problems they're having is unbelievable. And Hillary Clinton wants to be the Merkel of the United States. Okay? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen. I'll tell you what, I don't think it's going to happen.
I want to stay on this issue because this is important. We still have an awful lot of troops deployed in this, what I would describe as this perpetual state of conflict over in Iraq, in Syria, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. And I think I know Americans are they're weary of this endless war. So right now, specifically, we have about 5,000 troops in Iraq, and in some cases supporting the Kurds. I think through Hillary Clinton, Secretary Kerry, the Obama administration over the last 8 years, they really have not developed any kind of coherent strategy. What would you do as Commander-in-Chief?
Well, first of all, as I predicted years ago, Iran is really controlling Iraq. And they're in there now, and we have just, they've wanted it for decades and decades and decades. They've wanted it, and we gave it to them. We gave it to them. Because you had two militaries that were equal. I was saying before, they fight, they rest. They fight, they move 10 feet this way, 10 feet this way, they go home and rest. We've handed it to them on a silver platter. When I say about the deal that we made for them or with them on the whole, the $150 billion deal, I always said that's one of the best deals I've ever seen. Not really. The best deal is we have given them Iraq with among the largest and finest oil reserves in the world. We've given that to Iran. We've handed it to them. What we've done is incredible. If our presidents would have just stayed home and gone to the beach, or even gone out and played golf every single day, played 2 rounds a day, okay? Which Obama almost does. But I think he's played look, golf is wonderful. I think he's played 300 rounds of golf or something like that, more than 300. That's more golf than many members on the PGA Tour. Okay? So look, it's a very serious problem, but honestly, if they would have just done nothing, we would have been in much better shape. Forget about much better shape. It wouldn't even be close. The Middle East now is a total catastrophe between the migration and all of the problem and all of the death. And I'm talking death on both sides, folks. I'm talking death on both sides. Look at the people. They blow up a city and they say 2 people were wounded. All right? You know the real numbers, okay? The real numbers are astronomical. Astronomical. And we started this whole thing. And I'll tell you what, we are going to solve the ISIS problem, but we have to also get back and we have to solve it big league and strongly and swiftly. But we have to get back to rebuilding our country because our country is going to hell. Our infrastructure is a disaster. Our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, our hospitals, our schools. I mean, we'd go into Afghanistan and build a school, they'd blow it up. We'd build it again, they'd blow it up. We'd build it a third time, it's still there, barely. And yet, if we need a school in Virginia, or we need a school in Brooklyn, New York, or we need a school in Iowa, there's no money, okay? There's no money. What are we doing? What are we doing? So, one of those things.
Yeah. And I think that the real issue, and you have hit on this quite a bit, is how our homeland security and the things that we do here and domestically, impact everything we do overseas as well, and I think vice versa. So,
the one thing, General, I have to say, the people in our military are amazing. They're amazing. The people. And we don't take care of them properly because the vets are not being taken care of. And we don't take care of them in the field either because the equipment is old and tired. And, a friend of mine has a son who's been in Iraq for quite a while, going back and forth to different places over in the Middle East. And the thing that I talked to him, he's a fine young man and hasn't been wounded badly. I don't think he's been really very much affected in that way. But he said the thing that is most discouraging to them over there, soldiers, is when he looks at the other side having better equipment than they do. Because, we give the equipment to people that we think are on our side, and then a bullet's fired and everyone drops their weapons and runs and they come and pick up the weapons. I always talk about the 2,300 Humvees, armor-plated. If our young people would have had those Humvees, they wouldn't be walking around without legs and arms right now, believe me. Believe me. But they take them. They just take them. So, and he said it's so discouraging for our soldiers when they look and they see the quality of equipment that the other side has, ISIS, but the other side has, and they see it's better than what we have, and it's our equipment that they've taken. It's a very, very sad thing. And those kids, they're incredible people, but they really lose their spirit when they see this kind of thing, believe me.
So what I want to do is I'm going to jump to the other side of the world now and talk a little bit about North Korea, because North Korea is probably one of the most belligerent countries on the planet with Kim Il-jung. And so North Korea, they have grown increasingly belligerent under the Obama-Clinton administration and against them. And they have done just some unbelievable things over there with testing of some of what we believe is their nuclear capability. What do you see just overall as your strategy for North Korea?
Well, it's not that they've done some unbelievable things, but they're in the process of doing some unbelievable things, believe me. They're very belligerent. They have no respect for our country, none whatsoever. And we have a situation that's a potential catastrophe. We have somebody that truly does have nuclear and nuclear capability. The carrier maybe is not there yet, but it soon will be. We have a man who is, he's took over 25 years old, I guess, or around then, and now it looks like he's getting more and more hostile. And what I would do very simply is say, China, this is your baby, this is your problem, you solve the problem. China can solve that problem. And remember this, that's a big problem. China has virtually total control over North Korea, but they say they don't because they want to tweak us. Look at our president. They wouldn't even give him stairs to come out of Air Force One, okay? All right? And they probably say on that, gee, we couldn't get him there, When I saw that yesterday, did everybody see that? Where he couldn't get off the plane? So he had to get off on the kind that dropped down, but that's really meant for the crew. That's so that when they fix the plane, they go up on those stairs. The whole thing is just, it's insane. It's interesting with the president, because I saw that yesterday with the stairs. He went to Saudi Arabia and the top people didn't greet him, right? He went to Cuba and Castro, the brother, was not there to greet him. And I said to myself, if that happened, I'd land, I'd hear he's not there to pay respect to the country, not to him, to pay respect to our country. I would say, thank you very much, fellas, that's okay, close it up, boom, let's go back to Washington. I would. Let's go back to Washington. And the scene on the airport tarmac yesterday where this young woman is fighting with these Chinese people and they're saying, this is our country, this isn't your country. Wow. And just so you understand, we are very good to China. And I have great respect for China. I make a lot of money with China. China's great. I don't hold it against them. I hold it against our leaders for allowing this to happen with the trade and the trade deficits. The trade deficits are massive. $500 billion trade deficits. No, I hold it against our leaders. I respect China. I mean, our people should be doing that to them. But it doesn't work out that way. So, nothing against China. I have the largest bank in the world as a tenant of mine. I sell condos to people in China. I sold to everybody. But that we allow this to happen, and then we land on Air Force One. And I was saying, in the history of Air Force One, which is long and distinguished, these are the only 3 times where incidents like this have taken place. Think of it. Lands in Cuba, doesn't have high officials to greet him. Lands in Saudi Arabia, which we protect. If we didn't protect Saudi Arabia, they would be gone. Okay, they would be gone. But lands in Saudi Arabia, and they don't have the high officials to greet them, their highest officials. And I said to myself, that's probably the only time in the history of Air Force One where it goes into a country, lands, and you don't have the appropriate officials to greet, right? I really believe that. And then you're talking about a long history. But then, yesterday, they won't give him stairs to get off the plane.
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so one more here, and I want to talk a little bit about, in this case.
It is hard to believe, you have to say.
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So I want to talk a little bit about Hillary Clinton and the FBI. Last week, the FBI, on Friday before the 3-day weekend, they released notes from Hillary Clinton's email investigation. What do you think that these new revelations say about her qualifications to be Commander-in-Chief?
It's such a long answer to that question. It could go on for days. 13 phones, iPhones, whatever they were, and just banging the heck out of them. How about the acid wash of the emails that didn't mean anything? How about the 33,000 missing emails that were acid washed? Okay, acid washed. And Rudy was telling me nobody does it because it's such an expensive process. Okay, 33,000. Now, these emails had to do with the wedding. I give that 5. The wedding. And the other thing, of course, was the yoga classes, right? Now, look, folks, this is serious. This is a very sad time, I'm telling you, for justice in this country. This is a very sad time. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it is.
Never seen anything like it. I mean, go a step further. How about, I guess it was July 4th weekend. The interview takes place on July 4th weekend with no taping, no tape recorder, no nothing. And right on the weekend, when everyone's like away or not watching. And then the information that they wanted was released on Friday before Labor Day weekend, Friday afternoon. So everyone's away. No, this is a very, very sad situation that's going on here. This is a very sad situation. I've never seen it like this. We're like a third world country. We're like a third world country. Never seen anything like it. But on November 8th, we will cure this problem.
Okay, and finally, what I want to do is I want to finish on a bit of a high note for this great audience here from Virginia Beach, military veterans, spouses, citizens here of this local area. It's a great group of people. Talk a little bit about building our military. What would you do to rebuild the strength of our military?
Okay, first of all, it's not like we have a choice, okay? Somebody said, oh, well, we don't have to spend. We're not going to have a country if we don't have. This is one of the most dangerous times that we've ever had. Some countries are you look at what's going on with the weaponry being produced or bought by some countries, and it's unbelievable. And we're not keeping up. So this isn't like, oh, gee, well, let's invest it someplace else or let's do this or that. When we build weapons, we're also employing people, remember that. So this isn't just a one-way street. We're employing a lot of people. And when we have fighter jets, I don't know if you saw the documentaries, about a month ago there was a documentary on the fighter jets. They're so old that we can't get parts for them anymore, so they go to the plane graveyards and the museums where they have the planes in these museums. And they take parts off the planes in the museums. And then we have our young men and women flying these planes, and they were complaining. They said, you know, when I came in, our planes were new and great, and now they're retiring. They're getting ready to leave, and some of them would like to stay. But they're getting ready to leave, and they look at, you know, using old parts. Literally from plane graveyards and museums is where they get the parts. This is not the United States that we know, folks. This is not the United States that we want. This is not the United States. So we're going to rebuild our military. We're going to rebuild it with the finest technology in the world, because we have the finest technology. We have the finest technology, but we're not paying for it anymore. And frankly, we're paying for too much. And sometimes we're going to companies that are political, and we're getting things that aren't as good. You know this for years. Things that aren't as good as similar equipment that's better for less money, because they're politically connected, the companies. So, you know, I've spent a tremendous amount of money. We're going to announce very soon how much we've raised. We raised a lot, but I've spent a lot. I put more than $60 million into the campaign. And I'm going to be spending a lot more over the next 2-month period. Think of it, we're down to 63 days. Hard to believe. Who would have thought? This started on June 16th last year, and now we're down to 63 days. And I must say, with your help and with everybody's help, we're going to do something. We're going to make America great again. You know, it's about make America great again. So I just want to thank everybody. Really amazing people. And Rudy, I want to thank you very much, and Lara and Ivanka for being here, and of course, a truly great general right here. Mike, thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
A glass of wine in her hand. I knew she was gonna meet her connection. At her feet was a footloose man. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. I went down to the demonstration to get my fair share of abuse. Singing words gonna vent our frustration. If we don't, we're gonna blow
Me well enough to know the introduction I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican. I'm honored to be with you all on this day in Missouri, and I have to tell you, I did join this campaign. Just less than 2 months ago, a little more than 6 weeks ago, I joined this ticket with my wife at my side. I was deeply humbled to accept my party's nomination, not just to run, but to serve as the next Vice President of the United States. I accepted this job in a heartbeat. Because, ladies and gentlemen of Missouri, I'm here to tell you, you have nominated a man for president who never quits. He's a fighter. He's a winner. And until very recently, it seemed like he was out there fighting all on his own, but now this movement is coming together. Missouri is coming together. America is coming together. Saw it in Springfield earlier today, saw it in Ohio yesterday. We went to a county fair. Did you see it on TV? I mean, look, I'm from Indiana. I've been to a lot of county fairs. Where we pulled into this county fair, there were more than 50,000 people at the Canfield County Fair because they know we can make America great again. This campaign is gaining momentum every day. We're winning hearts and minds in states all across America. Missouri, we just saw that new poll out, 9 points ahead. And about a month ago, I didn't know if you saw it, about a month ago, CNN had this race with Hillary Clinton ahead by 8 points. Today, CNN reports that Donald Trump is leading Hillary Clinton 45-43 in their next. That one had to hurt. You know, people ask me, I mean, really. People ask me all the time, they say, what is it about Donald Trump? How come he's inspired this incredible movement of Americans? And I simply say, you know, I'm from south of Highway 40 in Indiana. We speak pretty plainly down there. I say, Donald Trump just gets it. Am I right? I mean, he's a genuine article. He's a distinctly American leader. He is his own man, and he's a doer. He's a builder. He's a doer in a game usually reserved for talkers. And when he does his talking, he doesn't go tiptoeing around those thousands of rules of political correctness. Donald Trump showed us what he is to the American people here in Rockville. And I got to tell you, it's really kind of fun to watch. I mean, really and truly, you know, the party in power just can't seem to figure out my running mate. And of course, I'm talking about the media. I mean, you got the party in power and the media out there, and they think they figured him out. You know, they spend more time focusing on what Donald Trump said or tweeted in the last 30 minutes than they do talking about what the Clintons have been up to for the last 30 years. But it's kind of fun, you know, I watch these shows. Mrs. Pence and I get off the campaign trail, we get in late at night, you know, we turn the shows on and they're in there talking. They think they got him this time. They got that word, right? They got a tweet, they got something, and then they say they finally done him in, and then the next morning they turn on the TV, and Donald Trump is still standing stronger than ever before and fighting his way You know, I can tell you, I've gotten to know this good man. I've gotten to know him up close and personal. When the Klieg lights are off and all the cameras are gone. Hey, this is a man who loves his family. He loves this country. And Donald Trump has never forgotten the men and women who built America. People that grow the food, people that work with their hands, who build the roads and bridges, who tend to our sick, who teach our kids. And I'll tell you something, because I see him stop every time he's walking down a back hallway in a kitchen or walking out to an airplane. The man can't walk by a law enforcement officer without stopping him and thanking him. I just promise you, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America, a President Donald Trump will stand with the men and women who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement to make sure we have the resources in this country to get us safe today. I know he wanted me to do it, but would you just join me in thanking all the members of the law enforcement community today? It really is amazing. At the very moment when America is crying out for something new and different, the other party has answered with a stale agenda and the most predictable of names. Isn't it amazing? I mean, people in both parties in this country are restless for change. We know things can be better. We know America can be stronger, and yet the other party has literally nominated somebody who represents everything this country's tired of. So let's just decide, can we, right now, here in Missouri, that Hillary Clinton will never be elected president of the United States. The reasons I want to tell you about today are really fourfold. I'll go through them real quick. I really will. It's about security. It's about prosperity. It's about our Supreme Court of the United States, and it's about upholding the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land. That's what this election is. On the foreign policy front, 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's leadership on the world stage has weakened America's place in the world. It's incredible to think about it. You look at a map of the wider Middle East in 2009 when Barack Obama became president. You look at a map of it today, you almost doesn't look like you're looking at the same part of the world. Terrorist attacks at home and abroad, grim and heartbreaking scenes among our allies, civil war tearing apart countries, terrorist sponsoring states doing deals with the greatest nation on earth. You know, history teaches us that weakness arouses evil. And Donald Trump and I believe that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's foreign policy of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, the rise, rule, and reign of ISIS, and paying ransom to terrorist sponsoring states is a testament. Let me make you a promise. When Donald Trump is president of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terrorists. But Hillary Clinton's record on foreign affairs is extraordinary. I heard that this afternoon in North Carolina, her running mate's going to give a speech about her record on national security and foreign affairs. What a coincidence. So am I. I mean, despite traveling millions of miles as our Secretary of State, the truth is the world is more dangerous today than the day that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton took office. Hillary Clinton's record on foreign affairs is heartbreaking. I mean, it was Hillary Clinton who instigated that disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran that culminated in the delivery of $400 million in ransom payment the day the 4 Americans were released from captivity. It was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama who made the decision to precipitously and recklessly withdraw all American forces from Iraq after our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine had fought to secure that nation in the wake of the surge. I hope you know that you have a candidate for governor who was a part of the very surge that fought and stabilized and won the peace. But what Navy SEAL Eric Greitens won, what our fellow countrymen won at great cost in a stable and secure Iraq in 2009 was squandered because of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. And the vacuum that they created with that precipitous withdrawal really created the environment in which ISIS was able to rise up, as it were, conjured out of the sand to compromise vast areas that had been won by the American soldier. And while we're talking about her record, it was Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton's State Department and Hillary Clinton that left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi. And after four Americans fell, and controversy arose over the original story it was about a video, and eventually they conceded it was a straight-up terrorist attack. She actually said before the United States Senate about that controversy, quote, and of those fallen Americans, quote, what difference at this point does it make? Well, let me just say, as a proud father of a United States Marine, anybody that said that, anybody that did that, should be disqualified from ever serving in Foreign policy failures of this administration are extraordinary. Not only embracing Iran, abandoning Israel, appeasing Russia, the losses in Iraq, the hollowing out of our military, the rise of ISIS, and the list goes on. America has lost so much credibility and respect in the world that here during the G20 conference, North Korea fires 3 ballistic missiles. The president has to endure a vulgar diatribe from the leader of our ally in the Philippines. And the President of the United States was required to walk out of the belly of his plane because the Chinese wouldn't even deliver his own staircase. You know, last week, Hillary Clinton's running mate called Donald Trump's meeting with the President of Mexico, which was universally praised. Demonstrated that you can still walk softly and carry a big stick on the world stage. Well, her running mate said that it was evidence of a, quote, diplomatic amateur hour, close quote. Well, the truth is it's been amateur hour on the world stage for the last 7.5 years. America and our allies and those who defend this nation know it. Maybe that's why today 88 retired U.S. generals and admirals endorsed Donald Trump as their next commander-in-chief. the American people know. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. They know Donald Trump will rebuild our military, stand by our allies, stand up to our enemies, and America will again command the respect of the world. But the record here at home is just as disappointing. You know, I know they like to give the rosy speeches about how things are good in America. The truth is, what Eric Greitens knows and what I know is that any progress you've made here in Missouri, any progress we made back in the Hoosier State, is in spite of the policies that have come out of this administration. Men and women of Missouri, we're in the midst of the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. We have today, the day after Labor Day, a day when we celebrate the working men and women of this country, we have the lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s. Don't be deceived by the low unemployment rate across this country. There are millions and millions of Americans who are not counted in that rate because there are millions of men and women who are simply not looking for work anymore. And most heartbreaking of all, there are nearly 7 million more Americans living in poverty today than the day that Barack Obama became president of the United States. Hillary Clinton's plan is more of the same. I mean, I watched her speech at her convention. I watched most of it. I had as hard a time staying awake as her husband did. It wasn't because it was long or it was late. It was just the same old stuff. I mean, it was more taxes, more regulation, more Obamacare, more of the war on energy that's been stifling jobs here in Missouri and all across America. $1 trillion in new spending, $1 trillion in tax increases. It truly is extraordinary when you think about it. Now, they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. But you know what? What Donald Trump and I know, it's nowhere near the best that we can do. It's just the best that they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to get this economy working for all the people of Missouri and all the people of the United States. Donald Trump's got a plan. Donald Trump's got a plan to get this economy moving based on the time-honored principles that have worked every time they've tried. And one of the reasons I love coming to Missouri is you've got such a great tradition of conservatives here. I've already mentioned Eric Greitens, but let me thank Jay Ashcroft for stepping forward to serve as Secretary of State. We've got Congressman Jason Smith, who's here, and all these great conservatives. You know, I always like to say that, conservative ideas work every time you try them. And Donald Trump's ready to try them again in Washington, D.C. I served in Washington, D.C. for 12 years. Sometimes I tell people that if I only had 12 years left to live, I'd want to live it as a member of Congress. Because that was the longest 12 years of my life. I mean, you got great Republican majorities in the House and in the Senate. You got to re-elect those good people. You got to re-elect Senator Roy Blunt from the great state of Missouri. But what we need is a president. What we need is a president who's working with all those great conservatives in Congress and moving forward an agenda that'll jumpstart this economy, and Donald Trump has got it. I hope you had a chance to check out that speech at the Detroit Economics Club. If you didn't, check it out. Donald Trump and I have a plan, very, very simple. We're going to streamline taxes for everybody. We're going to streamline deductions, and we're going to cut marginal tax rates across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farmers. We're going to lower business taxes We're going to lower business taxes in America so that American businesses can compete with businesses around the world. We're going to end death taxes once and for all. Death will no longer be a taxable event. And on the first day, we're going to recognize that regulation is a form of taxation, and Donald Trump's going to sign like we did back in the Hoosier State, like Eric Greitens going to do here in Missouri. Day one of a Trump administration, we're going to sign a suspension of all new federal regulation, and we're going to repeal every Obama executive order. Donald Trump's going to make sure that we put the American worker first.
Can you fire Claire McCaskill?
We're going to roll our sleeves up. Donald Trump is going to roll his sleeves up when he becomes the negotiator-in-chief. And we're going to have trade deals that work for the American worker and support jobs in the United States. And we're going to end illegal immigration once and for all. We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And lastly, because Donald Trump and I believe the blessings of this nation are found in the hearts of our people, their faith and their character and our freedom, but that they're also found in our vast natural resources. On day one of the Trump administration, we're going to end the war on coal once and for all. Now, honestly, there's a lot of economists out there that are pretty excited about that. They look at that Trump agenda, and it sounds reminiscent of what worked back in the 1980s. Right? In fact, I want to tell you something. I'm going to be at the Reagan Presidential Library on Thursday this week. I'll just be honest with you. For the next 62 days, Ronald Reagan is my favorite president. Donald Trump has made a connection, given voice to the frustrations and the aspirations of the American people like no one since Ronald Reagan. But it's beyond the personal connection. It's the ideals. It's the common sense conservative principles that he's prepared to go to Washington and fight to bring about. And there's a lot of economists out there that think that things are going to go. When Reagan did that in the early 1980s, cut taxes, rolled back regulation, released the full power of the American energy economy,